The Lost Colony of Roanoke, by me. The First Colony. Sir Walter Raleigh is granted a charter of land in Virginia in North America. In order to keep this charter, he needs to establish a colony there by 1591. Raleigh sends Ralph Lane and around 600 colonists to the Roanoke Island, but due to issues at sea and loss of ships, they lose a lot of provisions, and only 100 are left on the island with very little supplies. Relationships with the local Sacotan tribe wasn't good because with a lack of provisions, the colonists relied heavily on them for food, and as relationships worsened, fights broke out between the Sacotans and the Roanoke colonists. When more colonists and supplies arrived in 1586, they found that the colonists had evacuated the island, returning to England. The Vanishing Colony. Raleigh makes a second attempt at settling the area, with John White as the governor this time. There are some smaller scuffles with the Croatan natives and the colonists, but peace is eventually formed, although it is somewhat shaky. John White returns to England in August of 1587 looking for help, as things are somewhat rough in the colony. White is held up from returning to the colony by a war between England and Spain until 1590. This war prevents him from getting a ship to return back to the colony because all ships were required to fight in the war. In 1588, a Spanish ship discovered the colony, but didn't end up attacking due to the war ending and them getting preoccupied. White returns to the island, finding only the letters CRO carved into a tree and the words Croatan carved into one of the posts at the colony. Many believed that the colonists were killed by the Native Americans living on Croatan Island, and this was used to justify the genocidal retaliation and taking of Native American land. And this is a painting of John White with the reinforcements discovering Croatan written on the tree. Croatan. The alleged claims that the Roanoke colonists were killed by the Croatans is essentially baseless. The colonists most likely left the word Croatan carved into a post, as it was an agreed-upon secret sign to White if the colonists were to move. There's even been some archaeological evidence that the settlers had relocated, with archaeologists finding some English artifacts on Croatan Island at the site of an X located on one of John White's maps. This site is called Site X. The colonists weren't discovered during the time period that they would have been alive due to a variety of reasons. For Raleigh, so long as the colonists weren't confirmed dead, he still had claim to Virginia, and so he therefore didn't really want to go and find them dead because then he wouldn't have claim to Virginia. In 1602, a relief mission was sent, however its priority was to collect sassafras, and bad weather prevented them from landing on the island, and so they just left and kept the sassafras. And here's the map where Site X was discovered. When that odd patch there was x-rayed, it was found that there was an X there, and archaeological evidence has shown that there was some sort of outpost or fort there. Significance. The disappearance of the Roanoke colony is significant for multiple reasons. Had the colony survived, it would have been the earliest settled English colony in America, with Jamestown being founded later in 1607. The words Croatan carved into a tree post let people assume that the Croatans had killed the colonists, which they used to justify the horrid treatment of Native Americans later on. The fact that no one had definitive proof of what happened to the colony has left archaeologists and historians with a mystery not yet solved. Historical context. The story of Roanoke shows pretty much all of the broad historical trends of the time. The existence of the colony in the first place shows how old world powers had taken an interest in colonizing the Americas. The struggles of both the first and second colony showed how difficult life could be as a colonist, and White's trouble returning to the colony shows how the European powers were constantly at war. The blame of the Croatan Native Americans for the disappearance of the colony shows how people saw the Native Americans as uncivilized savages and a threat that must be removed. The end.